There is probably nothing more influential on American life than money, and that's why we do what we do here at GenWealth Financial Advisors. Hello, I'm John Shrewsbury, in for Scott Inman, who is off on this New Year's Eve. With me is my partner and co-founder of GenWealth Financial Advisors, Janet Walker. And it's been a while since we've done this thing, but we were doing this thing long before anybody else was.
Yes, I think we can stumble through it.
I think so.
We'll be all right.
I think so. How is it for you working on New Year's Eve?
It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just wanted to check. Just wanted to be sure.
We'll get one more show in for the end of the year. We'll
Absolutely.
be good to go.
Let's talk about how valuable $100,000 is today.
Today, as compared to maybe in 1990.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. I remember 1990 quite well because, wait for it, it was the year that I graduated from high school. This is out, we found this on Instagram, and it says earning $100,000 now has about the same buying power that $40,000 a year had back in 1990. And I will say, on the surface, that sounds ridiculous. But I do have to say that I recently was thinking about basically this same time frame. I was off by about 4 years in the thought that I was having. So I graduated high school in 1990, and then in 94 graduated from UCA and started teaching at Bryant High School that summer, or in August, when school started. And so at that time, Bryant was I don't know where they are now on this, but at that point, Bryant was the third highest paying district in the state. And so coming right out of college to start there for a teacher, I had a good paying job relative to where I would have been anywhere else in the state. But I had the realization recently that my daughter, who is a 19-year-old with an associate's degree, is taking home more as an administrative assistant than what my gross pay was in 1994 with a bachelor's degree and 22 years old and teaching at the third highest paying district in the state.
That's pretty obscene.
Well, and the reality is, though, even though it sounds like, well, my gosh, she's making a lot of money, she's not relative to what expenses are.
That's right.
And that's really what this needs. What this focus is not what did people make in 1990 or 1994 compared to now, but what were expenses like then compared to now.
As you live through the years, 1990 doesn't feel like it was that far away.
For us, it doesn't.
No.
For some people, they're like, we weren't here then.
I weren't
here. And I hadn't taken any English classes yet.
Wow. So, I was just about to say that's, 35 years ago, almost 36 years ago. And so when you stop and think about it, that's a fairly long time. And we've had over 3 decades of inflation. And what has really surged during this time is housing costs.
Yes.
If you stop and think about it, $100,000 house back then was a mansion, it seemed like.
My starter home was a good starter home, but it was like $65,000, but it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in a good neighborhood, and you can't begin to get anything like that now for the same price range, again, because of inflation.
Well, and the other thing I think that has happened, Janet, is that there's this at least this feeling that wages have not kept up with inflation, although statistically they actually have. But what we've done is we have evolved in society where more things are essential than they were back then.
Well, you just think about subscriptions. We've had this conversation from time to time around the office, and this has been a couple of years ago, and this team member has tightened up the finances since then, but there was a team member at the time who had over 25 subscriptions. And, you add one at $8 and you add another at $10 and another at $20, and it gets pretty expensive. But 1990, 1994, it was pre-Netflix. It was pre-Disney subscription. It was pre-Amazon Prime, you can keep on going on that list.
Yeah, the subscriptions are there, and just think about what people pay for cell service these days.
Oh my gosh.
It's way higher than your home phone was back then.
Yeah, I literally did not own a cell phone at that point in time. Yeah.
So here's why all this matters. If you think about what we do for a living, and that is help people prepare for retirement, number one, I think it is ludicrous for anybody to think that they can go into retirement and have a fixed income.
Yeah.
Because over a 30-year time period, prices are going to double and then probably double again.
Well, let me hit on where this really should hit home for individuals. There are so many people who think about planning for their retirement, and they're like, you know what, if I can just get, and I know interest rates are going to fluctuate throughout your time in retirement, but we've had people come and say, if I can just get a CD or money market, if I can get around 4 or 5%, I'll just take the income stream off of that and I'll be fine. The problem with that is just exactly what we talked about right here, that 10, 20, 30 years into your retirement, you will have the same amount of money that you're taking as income as you did when you started on day one, and you will have measurably less purchasing power.
Janet, this is going to dovetail right into our second subject that we're going to talk about in just a second. But, when you think about how people are thinking about retirement, I saw something the other day that said that people are shooting for having $1 million in retirement, and that's their target. They think they'll be okay if they have $1 million. Well, in our world, that's probably only about $40,000 a year.
Yeah, and it really, being okay with $1 million, some people have plenty of cushion and with $1 million, and some people don't have enough. It is way more about what your spending is than what the asset amount is that you have.
Absolutely. So speaking of our second subject, this actually comes from MarketWatch. 72% of people say they'd be happier if they saved or invested more money. Far fewer said spending more would bring happiness. That's interesting because, people have for years and years and years been on spending sprees. They wanted to spend everything that they had and then borrow some money and spend it too. But the happiness effect is really coming into light here. The headline is a new YouGov poll for MarketWatch finds high-income Americans are prioritizing savings with a goal of achieving, guess what? Financial independence. That's a cool thing.
You know what we help people do? We help people discover, protect, and share true financial independence. So that is exactly what we do. So we're elated to see this. The challenge that I see is people say they would be happier if they saved or invested more. So I would just say do it. Just take the time to determine what you can make happen in your financial life for your financial future.
Dave Ramsey comes on his radio show and says something to the effect where the paid-off house has replaced the BMW as the status symbol.
Yeah.
I think that the paid-off house has now been replaced by the fat savings account or the fat 401k plan.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to be said for, we can't say as advisors, this is a compliance thing, we can't say that we provide peace of mind and security and things like that, but I do think that that's the motivation behind what people are saying here, that they would be happier if they saved or they invested more. I think that they are in essence seeking that security. John, we've seen that time and time again through our careers in client meeting rooms.
Absolutely.
When that's really what they're solving for.
Well, there's a disconnect here, Janet. I think that and you've kind of alluded to this, people wanting to save isn't the same as people being able to save.
Right.
And that goes back to our first point, which is the inflation thing. And things just cost more, so it's very difficult to save. But I also want to challenge that to some degree, because how many times have we sat in a meeting room and actually seen people forego the match that they're getting from their employer on their 401k plan?
Time and time again. And John, I think if we had the ability to go back through our careers and pull out just the conversations that you and I alone have had with investors who were foregoing their match, I think we would find millions upon millions of missed dollars because people just weren't putting money in. Think about it for just a minute. If your company has even a 50% match, so if you put in 6%, they'll match you with 3. That's the most common scenario that we see in 401ks. But some of them are a dollar for dollar match, which is even better. But let's go with a 50% match. If you put in $100, then immediately you have 150. Think about it for a moment. You have a 50% return on your money before the dollars are even invested.
And that's at zero risk.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could put it in the most conservative choice available inside of your 401k and still have $150.
I guess particularly there could be a little bit of a risk there that if you left your employer, you might leave some of that match behind, because most employers have a vesting schedule on their match.
Right.
But that's about the only thing that I think that is a drawback there. I think the takeaway here, Janet, is we got to make retirement savings cool again. And I think also make it possible for people. And oftentimes that really involves planning.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I would say match your desire to be happier by saving and investing to your actions. Be sure that you get your actions in alignment with that so that you can move forward towards your financial independence.
I started off our segment here talking about is there anything more influential on American life than money? Well, here, money actually does buy happiness.
There you go.
So there you go. All right. So let's move on to our third subject on our What's Happening segment today. We fear people will end up in financial trouble is the quote from experts who are looking at the $20 billion buy now, pay later system that has just kind of snuck up on us out of nowhere. Things like Klarna and other companies out there that do this type of thing, they make it really, really easy to buy stuff.
Well, and even the company, I'm not going to name any particular one because I'm not saying this negatively about any of them, but any particular retailer where they have their credit card that, you get up to the register and they're like, would you like to apply now? You'll save $50 on this purchase. Please do it. And obviously they're getting paid. The person at the register gets a bonus if they get more people signed up, but the incentive there really is based on you're going to get their company credit card and they're counting on you carrying a balance and therefore paying interest. That company, that retail company, is going to make more money, which means you're going to spend more money just by signing up for that. So have the discipline. Of course, we're past most of that shopping time now at New Year's Eve at this point, but have the discipline to say no at the register. And if you can't get it, just walk away.
Well, this buy now, pay later thing is really interesting because there are setups in the arrangements that you can pay no interest at all. And so you think, why not? I'm just going to go ahead and do that instead of that big lump sum coming out of my checking account all at once. So you can kind of piecemeal out over time. But here's the thing. I think they know human behavior.
Right.
I think they understand how people can miss payments, forget about something, and then all of a sudden you're getting dinged with fees and interest and all of that type of thing that really does, and late fees are the thing that I think this sets people up for.
I think that we need to go back a couple of generations and relearn delayed gratification. That if there's something that you would like, then I don't know. Here's a novel concept. Let's save for it until we can get it.
Well, this is an interesting topic because I think this is a signal of a little bit deeper financial strain, especially on lower and moderate income people. We were talking earlier about the inflation thing and how that has hit people. Well, I don't think that has quench the desire to have stuff.
Right.
And so when you find out that, let's say something cost $1,000, but you could stretch that $1,000, I don't know, over 10 months at $100 a month. Okay, let's just do that because I can't afford the $1,000, but I can't afford the $100. You don't have it right now to turn loose of, but you're going to string yourself out over 10 months.
I see that regularly on, we do use a credit card. We have one that gets us hotel points and one that gets us airline points. But in both cases, we pay them off not just once a month, but every time that I get paid, we pay them off in full. But I always see by random purchases they're available to pay over time, and it just blows my mind how much we could put ourselves in trouble very easily to just go, oh yeah, I'll pay that over time. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know what the future holds, and this kind of $20 billion specter of debt, which is what this is, out there, it's just additional debt on top of the car payments and the credit card payments and the house payment and everything else. This could push some families that are already kind of teetering on the brink. It could push them into serious financial trouble. All right, that is what is happening around the world in the world of money. The Get Ready for the Future show starts right now.
You've been sold the idea that financial independence is all about some number on your account statement, or even worse, that you don't qualify because of where you started out. That's just not true. It's not about some well-kept secret of the wealthy. It's about finding the right information and knowing how to apply it. On the Get Ready for the Future show, we're answering your questions so you can start making real financial change today. The journey to true financial independence begins right here, and it starts with you.
Helping people to discover, protect, and share true financial independence. This is the Get Ready for the Future show from GenWealth Financial Advisors. I'm John Shrewsbury. In with me is my longtime partner and co-host, Janet Walker. Janet, it has been a while since we have been on the radio doing the show like this. I have fun doing this when I'm in the driver's seat and Scott's going out somewhere else.
Well, I think he'll be okay with more vacation time. So
I
think we can work that out.
I like it occasionally,
okay.
Just every once in a while. So we are here to answer your questions about retirement, investments, and your money. And you can actually reach out to us at any particular point in time during the show, after the show, anytime. If you want to text us a question, just text us at 501-381-5228, 501-381-5228, and we will try to get your question on the air. Our first question today comes from Gus in Bryant. Gus writes, I am 47 and just started my own business. What's the simplest way to start saving for retirement now? Gus, glad you asked. We do this all the time, and we've got lots of ways for you to save for retirement. Congratulations, first of all, on starting your business. We are both entrepreneurs. We started GenWealth almost 21 years ago. Hard to say 21 after we've said 20 for all year.
Yeah,
but,
you were just a little bit younger than what Gus is now. You were in your 40s, and Gus is in his 40s when we started GenWealth. And so, Gus, speaking from kind of fast forward into your future a little bit, we've been there and done that as far as what you're looking at right now. So going on the assumption that you're behind on retirement, I would consider a couple of options, not just one at this point, if your cash flow from the business will allow you to do it. So we're going to look at what can you do from the business perspective as far as what your retirement options could be, what you could set up through the business, and then what you could do personally through your income. And the other question that we don't really know is whether you're starting your own business and that is the only cash flow you have, or many people who start a business also still have their foot on first base as an employee somewhere while they're trying to steal second as a business owner. So if you still have that option, then we can talk through that as well.
Janet, let's first of all jump into some of the options here. I think as a business owner, One of the coolest things, especially if you don't have any employees, or maybe you have your spouse working for you, or one employee that you like a whole lot, then I think the SEP, or the SEP IRA, is a great alternative. It is very easy to do. It's very simple in terms of getting it started and administering it. There's no government red tape that you've got to go through, no testing and things of that nature that are involved in some of the more sophisticated retirement plans like a 401k plan or what have you. Let's talk about the SEP IRA.
So let me go ahead and list some other options as well, and then we'll kind of dive down into those. So there's the SEP IRA, there's a solo 401k as one possibility. There's a simple IRA, and if it's just you, this is what we don't know yet about your details, Gus. It sounds like it's probably just you, so several of these are not going to really be where you want to go, but for other business owners out there listening, these are some other possibilities. So the simple IRA, a defined benefit plan is a possibility. And then as you grow, this is absolutely farther down into the future, maybe a 401k. At GenWealth, we're probably about to make that transition from the simple to the 401k because of how much we've grown. So that is definitely farther down in the future. But John, back to the SEP.
Yeah, the SEP program is for individuals, and you essentially can contribute up to 25% of your self-employment income, maxing out at about $72,000. So if you are making really good money in your business, you can shelter a really significant amount of money in an SEP. Janet, I oftentimes, it looks like that, Gus is working full time in this business, but for people who have gigs that have sideline businesses, this is a great way for them to save some extra money and cut back on taxes, because everything that you put into the SEP comes off the top of your earnings as far as the IRS is concerned.
Right. And that is, as you get more employees, that's still going to be a benefit that you get from any of these plans. Like, John, for us as business owners, and we have employees who are participating in the simple IRA, then that's an expense that we as business owners have. So it reduces the profit of the business and therefore the taxes, but it's a great incentive for our employees as well. So again, it's a question of, like, right now you've just started, so it's probably just you, but if you have other employees, then we want to look at what your other choices are as well.
Well, a solo 401k, if you have a spouse working for you, then both of you can participate in the solo 401k, and you've got contribution limits that are very similar to the SEP program.
Right.
And then from there, let's kind of talk a little bit about simple IRAs. This is near and dear to our heart because this is the IRA, the retirement program rather, that we started. The only thing that it has in common with the IRA is it just has a label on it as an IRA, but it behaves a lot like a sort of a junior 401k program.
It doesn't have all of the expenses, all the reporting requirements that a regular 401k would have. We have referred to it, this is unofficial, but we've referred to it as a small business 401k. It's a dollar for dollar match, so up to 3%. So when somebody is contributing out of their $100, if they put in $3, then the business is going to also put in $3. But if the employee puts in $2, the business puts in $2. So you can calculate ahead of time what is 3% of my team's wages, and then you know how much you could possibly be out. And if you have people who are on variable compensation, we have that here, then we know we can't really have a cap of what our maximum exposure is. But if they go above and beyond, that means we have more income coming into the business. And so I'm comfortable with that additional exposure in terms of how much the business might be matching in that simple.
Janet, one of the distinctions between a 401k plan and a simple is a 401k plan can have a vesting schedule on the company match. A simple program does not have a vesting schedule, meaning the money is yours 100% from day one. And so if you leave that employer, you get to take that money with you. So simple, SEP, and solo 401k, those are great options for small businesses. Now, if you are a individual who makes a lot of money, maybe you are a consultant, maybe you are a salesperson, maybe you are in real estate, and you really make bank, you can think about a defined benefit plan. a defined benefit plan is the biggest contribution that you can make to a retirement plan. I've done several of these for business owners in central Arkansas, and it is a very, very productive way to accumulate money rapidly. But now the cash flow that you need to do a defined benefit plan is pretty high. And you need to be able to commit to it over a period of time, because what you're really doing is you're running the numbers and you're creating this quote unquote defined benefit in the future that you're going to have from this retirement plan. That is what informs or calculates the contributions that you can make to that plan. It is affected by your age, by your income, several factors like that. But it is a very, very lucrative retirement plan for people who are self-employed that make lots of money.
So to wrap up on this for you guys, a few things that I would say here at this point is I would be sure that you take the time to meet with an advisor to discuss your details, and then in the future, be sure that you take the time to sit down and meet with an advisor on an annual basis, because things change. Even here at GenWealth, John and I are focused on individual finances for other people all the time, and it's easy for us to get our eye off of the finances of the business because we're busy working in the business. So this is one of those things where you take the time intentionally each year to meet with an advisor to help you plan for your individual future, because you're going to retire from your business at some point, but also for the health of the company financially. And then one other point that I would make is to be sure that you automate as much of this as you possibly can, because again, as a business owner, you're going to get busier than you ever would have imagined in the past. So automate as much as possible.
And if you want more free information about retirement, investments, and your money, simply go to our YouTube channel. Subscribe and search for GenWealth Financial Advisors. I guess you have to search first, then subscribe for all of our latest videos. All right. Our next question comes from Faith via a text. We're in our 50s and never really created a financial plan. That sounds like about, 90% of Americans.
Yeah.
We have some money in our 401ks, but we don't have a plan at all. Is it too late to start one now? Faith, it is never too late to start a plan, but every year without one is costing you clarity and confidence about your retirement. And as we alluded to, Faith is not alone.
Yeah, Faith, you are absolutely not alone. According to the Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies, in a 2025 survey, so recent information here, of middle-class Americans who are not yet retired, about 79% of people in their 50s say that they're saving for retirement via a 401k or outside workplace plan. However, in that same group, only 21% had a formal written financial plan or strategy.
We have an interesting statistic at GenWealth. I still haven't seen but maybe one of these in my career, and I don't think you've seen one at all.
I still have not. In our 20 plus years apiece, really together we're over 50 years of experience as financial advisors, and I have yet to see one single written financial plan brought into our company by a client who's coming here to meet with us. So not one. And you say you have one now?
I think I have one.
Just one.
Just one. In
50 years between the two of us. So
crazy.
So most people don't have them, Faith, and even what we find, ironically, and this boggles my mind, but it is reality. Most people who are meeting and working with a financial advisor still don't have a written plan, because most people in that situation are working with an advisor who is just focused on what are the investments, not what is the big picture and what investments do we utilize to make that big picture a reality. The big picture has to come into play, and that is the financial plan.
Now, Faith has got a fairly short timeline here, Janet.
Yeah.
So let's kind of dig in a little bit and help her to understand kind of how this would go. Because, obviously having a financial plan is a good thing, but going through the process of having a financial plan is kind of scary to people.
Right. So we would start the conversation with some cash flow points. Just what would you like to have in retirement in terms of income, but more importantly, what do you need to have in retirement? So we talk about your required and your desired income. Help us understand that. And then what are your goals and dreams, both before retirement and during retirement? So all of that helps us pull together the information about what your, again, requirements and desires are, so that we can begin to look then at what tools do you have to make these things become a reality.
Janet, this is a really cool process once you kind of get into it. You know, what this plan will afford you is a look into the future. It will take what you are doing right now and project forward that if you don't change anything about what you're doing right now, here is the outcome that you're likely to get. Now, obviously, there's some variables there. There are some things there that you make assumptions about in any financial plan, but it is a forecast about where you are going. It's very good to know what destination you're going to end up in if you're driving down the road someplace.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's essentially what you're doing. But then I think the good financial plans take this one step further. They don't just tell you where you're going right now with what you're doing right now. A good financial planner is going to sit down and look at your situation and help you to understand the things that you could be doing to get to a better destination.
So, Faith, here's how it would work. Some of the things that we would touch on in a meeting with you. We talked about those initial questions that we would ask you in an initial meeting. But then beyond that meeting with you and your husband, your advisor would develop a personalized plan that addresses the following areas and quite a few more. So under retirement income planning, it will address how much you are contributing and whether or not it's enough. A lot of people have no idea. Maybe they're just putting in enough to get the match if they're doing that, but they don't know what end result that's going to give them, whether that's going to be enough. How's it invested, both in terms of the product type, the tax treatment, and the investment objective? Do we need to make any adjustments to that now? On the investment objectives, I'll hang out there for just a minute. A lot of people are too conservative with all their money as they approach retirement, treating it more like a stop sign to the entire portfolio rather than a yield sign with a portion of it. But even from the time that you retire, you may still have a 30-year life expectancy from that point. So we need to not be too ultra conservative. And then, John, in this retirement income planning, we're also going to pick up on a Social Security strategy.
Yeah, Social Security is one of those black boxes, if you will, of benefits that people just don't really understand. A lot of people say, I'm just going to take it at 62 because I got to get mine before they run out of money.
Right.
And that's not a strategy. You're still going to get a Social Security check. Even if Social Security ran dry, you'd get 3/4 of the check that you normally would have gotten.
And the reason is, there's a lot of people here at GenWealth these days who are way younger than you and I are, John,
Yep.
and they are still getting paid and paying into the system. And so that's the reason that bankrupt, air quotes here, bankrupt for Social Security does not look like bankruptcy for an individual. It would not be that the check goes to zero.
That's right. And so all of that kind of gets melded together into plans that you can actually flex and discuss with your advisor and say, what if this, what if that? And you will come out with a plan to get better at what you're trying to do. If it is retirement income planning, then you will have a better plan than what you had, or you will have affirmation that what you are doing is just right.
Another area that we haven't even mentioned yet is an insurance analysis. Do you have life insurance and or long-term care? Do you need those in place? Those are some important things to consider. So to wrap up for Faith, you're in your 50s and you've never had a plan. Don't assume that the ship has sailed. In fact, many Americans your age, like we heard from this Transamerica study, many Americans your age are exactly where you are, where they have some savings in place, but they do not have a plan. And that means that starting now can make a really big difference for you. And all you need is a realistic budget, clear picture of what retirement is going to cost, and then a plan to help you put that in place.
Janet, Faith's question is the question of the week this week. And thanks to Faith for reaching out with your question. We would love to send you a free Get Ready for the Future Show tumbler just for being the question of the week. So email us, Faith, at show@getreadyforthefuture.com and claim your tumbler. All right, let's move on. From Andrew in Little Rock. I am 65 and thinking about selling my rental property. Should I do a 1031 exchange or just take the gain and pay tax? Now, when I said 1031 exchange, people thought I started speaking Chinese or something, and they had no idea what I was talking about. 1031, what is it, Janet, and why should he or should he not do it?
So 1031 just literally refers to where this is in the tax code. So if you were to look in the astronomically, ridiculously large tax code under Section 1031, you would find that you have the ability to sell real estate and purchase like-kind other real estate, and whatever the gains are in what you have sold, those go into the next purchase, and you don't have to pay taxes on the capital gains at that point. So that's what a 1031 exchange is. It could delay taxes for you. It would if done right, but it's not always the right move. So let's walk through for Andrew here, John, how to make that call with confidence.
Well, I think that first of all, you have to ask yourself, do I need this money anytime soon? Because it doesn't make any sense to put it into another property if you have a liquidity need.
And here's a key that a lot of people don't realize. A 1031, now, when I say all or nothing on this, I'm not talking about if you have a portfolio of rental properties. Obviously, you can make different decisions from one property to another. But when you are selling a property, let's say you have $100,000 in gains in that, when you sell that, you don't get to say, hey, if I can just hold out 20 and then I'll roll the other 80 in there, I'll pay the taxes on the 20. You don't get to do that. It is all or nothing. This property either goes into the 1031 in full or it does not utilize that as a strategy.
Right.
So just realize that it is an all or nothing per property. So since it's per property and not like for your whole portfolio, I think, Andrew, the way you worded this question, I have a feeling that you have more than one property. That seems like the implication here. And so if that is the case, I think it's probably wise to do a little bit of both. And let's talk about why that is. I think diversification can be your friend as you roll into retirement. And one of the things that you want to think about on real estate, I don't know how you have owned your real estate. My family owns real estate, and we are very passive investors. We have property managers who handle all the 2 a.m. phone calls and things like that. They handle all of that, and they take a portion of the proceeds, and then we just see the cash flow from it. At 65, if you continue to own any real estate, I am hoping for you that it is in a passive manner. We've seen, John and I have seen many times over the years where people have been more active owners of real estate and they get into their 60s or at least by the time they get into their 70s and they're like, I'm over this. I'm not going to take another 2 a.m. phone call for the heat or the air has gone out.
Or I'm tired of spending money on repairs that somebody tore up when they left.
Yeah, exactly. And so maybe that transition to more of a passive ownership in the portion that you might keep is a possibility. But then, John, let's talk about diversifying into some other things outside of real estate and the cash flow, the flexibility that gives you.
Yeah, you've got to think about what your liquidity need is and what your need is for regular, predictable income. Renters sometimes don't pay the rent. Mm-hmm. Sometimes their expenses of the rent suck up some of the rental property, suck up some of the rent that you're getting. And so to have a need at 65 for regular, dependable, predictable income, you might want to think about diversifying into other investments. And other investments can give you that dependable, predictable income, but it can also give you some opportunity for growth and opportunity for liquidity. So I believe the best thing for Andrew to do is to reach out to a financial advisor, talk about the 1031 exchange thing, talk about diversity of income, talk about diversification of your investments. All of those things come into play at this very critical time in your life, Andrew. We appreciate the question here at the Get Ready for the Future show.
Hey, John, I do have one more thing. I know you were ready to wrap up on that, but I just thought about, we didn't mention a potential step up in basis. I think one other important thing for you to think about, Andrew, is what is going to happen with this property when you're gone. If you and your spouse own it jointly, or how it's owned, where does it go when you're gone? Because if you come out of this, then you're going to lose that step up in basis that would go to the next generation, if that's the way it's set up to transition upon your passing.
Quick note, we now offer estate planning services here at GenWealth and have our in-house estate planning specialist reach out today to book your consultation. You can reach out to us at 866-653-PLAN, 866-653-7526. All right, got to hurry, Janet. Last question comes from Henry in Maumelle. We are 48 and 46 and just received a $100,000 inheritance. Should we use it to pay off debt, invest, or keep it in savings?
Okay, that sounds like, one or the other, but let's think through this. A windfall is a gift, but only if you put it to work in the right way. So let's talk about some options for your next move. Step one, this is very important, Henry. Step one is take some time to think. Like, put the money in a high-yield savings account, set an appointment with an advisor, and discuss with your wife, before you even come into the appointment with an advisor, discuss with her what is important to the two of you. What are your dreams that maybe you haven't even allowed yourselves to think about yet because you didn't have this money previously, but now you do. So step one, take some time to think and understand that there is a lot of emotion around inherited money, and this opportunity to take some time to think helps you look at this more logically.
Let's also talk a little bit about sort of an order of operation here, because I think that things make logical sense when you talk about financial planning. And the first thing is to check up on your emergency fund. Do you have 3 to 6 months expenses in an emergency fund? Then think about paying off non-mortgage debt. This is anything that's accruing interest or what have you outside of your home mortgage. You want to get that paid off and taken care of. And then you also want to talk about looking at retirement and tax advantage savings with this kind of lump sum of money, Janet. I think that could help you catch up on maybe savings that was delayed or deferred in the past. Also, I think you've got to think about how do we pay off eventually that mortgage if you have one.
Yeah, so there's several things to think about. Circling back to the non-mortgage debt, let's say it's a vehicle. You're going to need to replace that vehicle at some point in the future. So even though it would free up the vehicle payment money per month right now, you still need to make a payment to yourself so that you have a replacement. So we want to look at there are so many different options you have, and it's really important to get a holistic view of everything that you've got going on financially to determine how to approach this. One thing in the retirement section here, as you're preparing for retirement, that made us think about what type of dollars you're actually inheriting. We don't know whether those are qualified or non-qualified dollars. And what that means is the person from whom you're receiving this inheritance, did they have that money in a 401k, in an IRA, in something that the IRS would consider retirement assets? And if so, then we need to have a tax conversation and required minimum distributions. There are lots of other things to consider if this is qualified money.
Janet, I think that more so than anything, this is an opportunity for Andrew to have sort of a new day as far as his money is concerned. Mm-hmm. He's got $100,000. He's going to sit down and visit with a financial advisor and get a plan. But I think he can then, if he hasn't already been doing this, I think he can then begin to work annually with that financial advisor, be sure that he's tracking on the track that he needs to be on, and then use this inheritance to create sort of a new mentality from a financial standpoint so they can have better outcomes in the future. When we talk here at GenWealth about helping people to discover, protect, and share true financial independence, the discovery part of that is really one of those things that you go, oh, wow, this is actually possible. And a $100,000 inheritance can jumpstart any activity when it comes to financial independence if you handle it the right way.
Absolutely. So, a lot of things here for you to consider as you're walking through this decision. But again, I think one of the main points is for you guys, before you come in to meet with an advisor, to sit down and dream a little. Like, allow yourselves to really walk through what this could look like, and then be intentional to get a plan on paper, on purpose, which brings me to the final thoughts. That's where I was going to go.
I'll just let you roll right on there.
Yeah, roll right on, because as we roll into a new year, don't let your regrets from 2025 and prior roll into the next year. I'm not a fan of New Year's resolutions because they fade away pretty quickly, but I am a fan of new habits and making them part of who we are, because we want you to be a better person a year from now, 2 years from now, etc., than who you are today. That should be the goal for everybody. And one of the best ways for you to do that for your future financial independence is for you to get a time to meet with a financial advisor.
Janet, there's the saying that we've heard for years that you will ultimately become a culmination of the books that you read, and I'm going to kind of expand that a little bit and say the information that you take in.
Because it's podcast today too.
That's right. And the people that you hang out with. If money is that central arbiter of happiness here in American life, then doesn't it make sense to have a money coach, somebody to walk along beside you and help you with this complex thing of money? I think that if you understand the impact that money has on your life, master that beast. Be sure to learn as much as you can. Educate yourself with the coach to get a path of financial independence underway. Here at GenWealth, we are different because we are education driven, strategy based, and team delivered. All you have to do is reach out to us at 866-653-PLAN, 866-653-7526 to get your plan for financial independence. And that is all the time that we have. And that kind of flew by fast.
It did.
How did we do that so well? I guess we've had a little bit of experience. Huh?
Once or twice.
All right. A new year is coming, and we've got more information for you on the Get Ready for the Future show. We are back next week with more on retirement, investments, and your money. Stay with us.
The GenWealth financial team is available to you 24/7 at info@getreadyforthefuture.com, or call our offices at 866-653-PLAN. That's 866-653-7526. You should personally consult a financial advisor before making any investment, and no strategy can assure success. Securities offered through LPL Financial. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Independent Advisor Alliance. Independent Advisor Alliance and GenWealth Financial Advisors are separate entities from LPL Financial.